With all of our drafts in the books, we look ahead to week 1. And Matt and I have 10 players that you need to head to your league and add to your watch list right now on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ahne, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ahne. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And guys, I know we're transitioning here from the off season to opening day right around the corner, only a couple days away. But still, give us that chance on Subtext. When you join us on Subtext, you're gonna get text message alerts going right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in these 30-minute episodes. And as we head into the regular season, you're gonna get our in-depth waiver wire analysis. You're gonna get call-up alerts with all of those great players, Roman Anthony, and just all of those top prospects, just more than anyone else in the industry is offering. Once again, join us on Subtext. Link is in the bio wherever you're listening or watching. And guys, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And all right, Matt, like I said, we're headed into the regular season. I can't believe it's already here. Hopefully you've all wrapped up your drafts at this point. If you drafted within the next couple of days, good luck to you. But if you're already drafted, once again, I hope you did great. But Matt, we got 10 names. We got 10 great guys that you need to go to your watch list and get them on there right now. Hey, maybe even some of these guys are ads, in a 2, 3, 4 days. So we're going to get on top of that. Matt, who do we got first today, brother?
All right. So look, all these guys are, I just want to preface like this. Look, all these guys are watch guys. You're not trying to add every single one of them. Maybe for a spot start, if you need them, maybe, you need to fill a hole. Sure. But like a lot of these guys weren't even drafted. They're all free 99. That's why we're talking about them. So, we'll spot out the ones we think you are. We'll kind of, if you're on the subtext too, I'll send out a ranking of these guys of who we're prioritizing and, whatnot. But ultimately, please just be patient. I think some of these guys have some serious upside, and some of these guys might be just like, hey, first couple of weeks are pretty great. Let's start off with my favorite guy on the list outside of maybe like 2 other people, Casey Mize of the Detroit Tigers. Quite honestly, Mize has been very disappointing since going down to, if I'm not mistaken, TJ twice. TJ. Yeah. And, he looked really, 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 really good in 21. He posted that 3.71 ERA through 150 innings and had 118 strikeouts and had a whip of 113. He had serious command. His stuff was looking really good. Everything about him was just like, that year 2 is going to look real nice. And then obviously year 2, he got the TJ, and then things kind of just went awry. And then, the return in 24 was just really ugly. What are you going to do, right? Like, these things happen. And he was, he was the number 1 pick at one point in his life, going into the MLB draft. So the talent is there. So look, this is what he's doing and why we're highlighting him. This spring so far through 16 innings, he has 18 Ks. He has a ERA of 1.13. He's only allowed 2 earned runs. 1 was a home run, unfortunately, but still. Whip is sitting at sub 1 at 0.94. He's just looking real sharp out there. I don't know if I'm going to say, hey, here's that resurgence, or here's that breakout we saw coming that from a couple years ago, but he's an interesting name. Pitching in a great park, has the prospect pedigree, is somebody that I think we need to pay attention to and then see kind of what happens. I've added him in a couple leagues just to kind of see what's going on. That last start looked really good. And if I can even get just him for a couple weeks while I'm waiting for unfortunately Shane McClanahan to come back, fill my rotation spots. Casey Mize is a great filler. If he ends up being longer, this is great. But these are the guys too that you play fantasy baseball. If you're new, this is something you need to pay attention to. The first couple of weeks of fantasy, there's always pitchers that pop up on the waiver wires and hitters that you want to try and get to early. He could be one of those guys that could have some long-term fantasy value. So pay attention to this whole list and try and see who we can scoop up. Casey Mize may be one of them.
Yeah, man, and even like for the folks that lost Grayson Rodriguez, and I had one more off the top of my head, George Kirby, guys like that in deep leagues. Casey Mize 9% owned on Yahoo. He's widely available. Matt, you broke him down really, really well. I don't have too much to add, but you know what? I endorse it. He's a guy that going into spring training, hey, was really not looked upon, but Detroit says, hey, he had a great spring training. He won the job, number 4 starter on that team. Hey, if it pans out, Detroit's going to be pretty good this year, in my opinion. So look out for a guy like Casey Mize, Matt. Great talk there with him. Same applies to this next guy, another Detroit Tiger starting pitcher, Reese Olson. Young kid. I really like what he brings to the table. He's 25 years old. And Olson kind of showed out last year. He pitched 112 innings. He had 101 strikeouts. He had a 3.53 ERA and a 1.18 whip. You like that from a young kid at 24 years old in the bigs. And same applies. It's a great team. There's Scooble and Flaherty mentoring, guys like Gibson Long, who eventually will come back. He's hurt. But Reese Olson as well. I really love what Detroit's doing over there. And I think they're going to be a competitor. And like I said, Reese Olson's got good stuff. He's had pretty solid success in the minors. Spring training hasn't been super kind to him, but you know what? The ERA, you look at the ERA, it's 4.30, but the whip's 115, 14 innings, 13 strikeouts, only 3 walks. Looks like the long ball's giving him a little bit of trouble, but hey, when he heads back to Detroit, that park is bigger. I think he'll limit it, even if it's like a higher 3s ERA with a solid whip and under a K per 9. I think Reese Olson is somebody we're going to look at and be like, all right, you know what? He contributed along the way. Might go from one of those waiver wire pitchers in the first half that winds up in our rotations. 28% on Yahoo for Reese Olson, Detroit Tigers starting pitcher.
I like Reese Olson. Honestly, he's always been somebody that like, hey, I'm in a pinch or I need to add somebody. He's somebody that I like to target. He's usually somebody like, okay, if he's having a 2-start week, I'll probably try and see if I can get him on my team for at least a little bit. So somebody you definitely need to consider. Great take, Dom. I'm going to move on. It's about Brandon Woodruff of the Milwaukee Brewers. So he's actually progressing earlier than expected. He's 52% owned right now, and quite honestly, he is way ahead of schedule. I honestly didn't think that with the setbacks and things that we were seeing with that shoulder, I was expecting maybe like mid-May. Now there's an opportunity for him to return in April, and probably I would assume if everything keeps going right, he's probably gonna be back the second week or third week of April. If I really had to put a date on it and a timeline that I'm expecting. He threw 2 innings in the minor league game on Friday. His fastball's up a mile per hour, 95 from 94 is what he's been through his whole career. He's looking really sharp, and as long as there's no setbacks, he could honestly be up at like I said, second week, third week of April and be an instant contributor and a stud. He's like him being out there in 48% of leagues is a crying shame. Like quite honestly, add him, stash him at the bottom of your bench. If you have an IL spot and he has IL eligibility, throw him there. He's going to throw a couple sim games once he gets to Milwaukee, and then they're going to start a rehab assignment. Quite honestly, if everything's looking grooving, like I said, rehab game or 2, and I think he'll probably be right up. So we'll see. I mean, this is huge. I think they just want to see him get up to like 60, 70 pitches, and then we're rocking and rolling with Brandon Woodruff and him literally immediate. He's the number 1 priority on this whole list.
Yeah, Matt, I'm with you. Yeah, I think you said it well right there at the end. He's a guy. Actually, the percentage is jumping up. When I was writing this up, I want to even say maybe like 2-3 hours ago, it was like 50 or 49. I know I had a draft today as we're recording this. I took him. I think everyone should be taking him. He should be like 90% owned, honestly, and I don't think even that's an exaggeration. Matt, you talked about the upside. I think a top 25 starting pitcher while healthy is not out of expectation for a guy with Brandon Woodruff, and I think I literally drafted him as like my SP 6 or 7. If you can getting him in that range, I'd even jump him up to an SP5, to be honest with you, just because of the upside there. Maybe not in deeper leagues that we always like to talk about here. In the deeper leagues, your replacement on the waiver wire isn't going to be as good in the shallower leagues. So I think I want to say like 12-man leagues, you're talking maybe SP5, 6. Anything shallower than that, hey, if you want to jump them up as a solidified SP5, sure, why not? But with that being said, guys, before we move on to the rest of these names, and these are names you need to know before the season starts. We'll be right back after this quick break.
All right, wrong one. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers NSF certified line of protein powders, electrolytes, pre-workouts, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF certified sports line to fuel his strength and recovery. Clean and transparent ingredients. I love the ingredients prioritize wholesome, nourishing ingredients without all that artificial junk. And honestly, they're pretty great too. I left the bag downstairs, but they sent me a protein and a pre-workout. Both is absolutely fire. Really meets my needs. Whether you're recovering after a workout with that awesome protein or just energy boost, their grass-fed whey protein pre-workouts deliver real results. Just visit Just Ingredients US and use the code Locked On MLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at Just Ingredients, just.ingredients on Instagram. Ever check out your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Every weekend. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial companion center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you should stop managing your money and start building wealth. Surprising insight is honestly when I started using Monarch, it realized just how much I spend on food delivery, which is a lot. Now I budget smarter and save more. Just managing my money with a partner is smoother than ever. I can track and share personal accounts, set goals, and even stay on the same page without any stress, which is usually hard. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code Locked On MLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com and use the code Locked On MLB for first half off your first year. And introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, Diamond Club on Subtext. Quite honestly, you want to get ahead of it. Look, I'm going to be honest. You don't want to be late to all these prospects that are probably going to get called up really early. Dom said at the top, Roman Anthony. There's other prospects that, unfortunately, control comes into play, even though they shouldn't be doing it. And these guys could get called up way before the Super 2. So just stay out there because, prospects of note, Andrew Painter, Roman Anthony, guys that are imminent to the league that you need to get ahead. And quite honestly, we're pretty fast with it. You get a text right to your phone. We're going to beat you out on it. If you have any questions or things like that too, you can hit us up. All right, let's get back in the show. Dom, I feel like I've done so much talking. I might want to cut my tongue off. And even though I do this for a living, please take the mic away.
Yeah, let's jump into it. And I got an oldie but a goodie. Maybe still a goodie. We'll see. Let's talk about Justin Verlander. If you don't know, he heads over to those San Francisco Giants, and he's got a starting pitching job over there. Let's see how he does. Spring training's actually been somewhat kind to him so far. A 3.43 ERA with a 1.23 WHIP, 21 innings, 19 strikeouts, 5 walks, 2 homers. Not horrible. He's not somebody, that's widely owned, 37% rostered. Probably once again one of more of those deep league plays. Maybe your 14 man deeper. So that's probably where I'm looking at him at the moment. But I'll say this: I think in that park, he's not going to give up a lot of home runs. As long as he's healthy, I don't see him having a crazy high ERA. He's not going to win a lot of games. The whip, as he's gotten older, hasn't been as solid. Even as he in 2023, where he was still pretty good, the whip went up to 113 from sub 1 4 years straight, was up to 138 last year. I think it's going to be like a 120. But you know what? Free 99 off the waiver wire, even if he's available in like an NL only league. I take a look at Verlander in spots like that. Who knows? Maybe he's got a little bit of Verlander magic left in what seems to likely be his last season in the bigs.
Yeah. Hey, look, any shot at a guy that's done it for as long as he has, it's worth it, especially when he's free 99, when usually you'd actually have to pay the price. He's definitely worth the flyer on. What's the worst that happens? This is the end and we just avoid him at all costs. Yeah, absolutely. Take a shot on him. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about an interesting name here. Sean Burke. of the Chicago White Sox. Quite honestly, he is the guy that was overlooked due to Paul Skeens being on the same team as him in college. That's really all it is. Burke actually would have been a guy that everybody would have been talking about. But unfortunately, just it is what it is, right? He had a little success last year when he got the call. He had pitched about 19 innings, started about 3 games, had 22 Ks in that time, had a 1.42 ERA with a whip of 1. Like, he was looking real solid. College stats were looking mighty nice too, and when he was in the NCAA, obviously. He had about 74 innings pitched. He had 107 Ks. He was looking pretty good. He was a pretty stout player. And you look at what he's done in the minors, and he's looked kind of up and down. But I don't know if that's due to him working on things. But the success he had in the when he came up last year just gives me intriguing. Up until his last start, where he got blown up, kind of turns me off to where I was saying, okay, he was going to be like a lottery pick, to now we're going to just watch him, see how his starts go the next couple of weeks. If he goes out and starts, turning it on and starts being really good, I'm going to add him really fast. Like, one really good start where he goes about 5-6 innings, gets a decent, K per inning, and keeps the ERA down, and where he might end up on a team. Somebody to watch. I'm not running out and getting him, but definitely a watch guy for sure. He could have some future upside.
Yeah, Sean Burke actually got the opening day nod for the White Sox too, so it's interesting. Matt, you did a great breakdown there. I'm not super familiar with him myself. Definitely a watch list kind of guy. 6'6", 240, big dude. Not familiar with his repertoire, Matt. I don't know if you got into that or not. But yeah, let's keep our eyes on him and see what he does. Matt, you even bringing him to light to me here, because I did see he got the opening day nod. But once again, not super familiar with him myself, so I'll leave it to Matt. Matt's got more of the info than I do there. But let's move on to this next guy. Let's talk about. I guess I'm getting the oldies but the goodies today, and I'm kind of here for it. Let's talk about Mike Soroka. I don't know if he's going by Michael now. I don't want to misassociate him there, but I know him as Bad Boy Mike Soroka, so I'll at least throw him that nickname there. I like what he brings to the table. He heads over to the Nationals. I don't think he was ever fully healthy last year. It's been a while since Soroka's, I think, actually been fully healthy. But you know what? He could be good. I think the Nationals in general are going to be good. Spring training hasn't really been kind to him so far, but he's kind of like one of those deep league plays, what is it, your AL only and stuff like that. That's where I'm kind of looking at him. He's 4% owned, and he's a dude. I'll give him a couple of starts. And, if he's bad after 2 starts, he's going right back on the waiver wire. But you know what? In a situation like this, we just want to give you guys to throw on your watch list and kind of see where the thing goes. Because Soroka is a guy, if he figures it out, he's one of those dudes that can have mid-threes kind of ERA. The whip should be, contributable. He's not really going to be a K per 9 guy. But if he finds a way to give you at least 5 innings to start, he can have some wins with this Nationals team. I think they're going to be a lot better this year. Deep league play, Mike Soroka, once again, with those Nationals now.
Yeah, he's definitely an interesting play. I don't know. He might have some K per 9 things. I mean, he's added a couple things that make me enjoy him this year. I just want to see a couple things come to fruition. I also want to just go back to Sean Burke real quick. He wasn't on the same team. He was in the same draft class, and obviously he was being well overshadowed by Paul Skeens. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify everything. But anyway, Mike Soroka, I think, is going to be somebody you definitely want to watch. He might have a month or two where you're just like, you're starting him every day, and then he's just like, peace out. But anyway, you know what? Before we hop into anybody else, because I just chewed everybody's ear off and talking in circles, we can give me a break real quick and get Dom rocking and rolling. We'll be right back.
And guys, March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. And guys, like Amir Khan is doing for McNeese, I'm doing for FanDuel over here. So, it's just so easy. They make picking my favorites. And once again, just talked about McNeese and them and the underdogs this year. And FanDuel just makes it so easy to back them with spreads, totals, and games props. I'd love to stay in the action with the tournament games happening almost every day. There's always something exciting to bet on, easy and fast, guys. The FanDuel app is just so simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops and all the action that's going on all tournament long. Once again, that's FanDuel.com to get in on it today. All right, Matt, I don't know if you want to hop in, if you got somebody lined up. I don't know if you want me to hop back in.
You know what? I'll take it. We're going to be talking Tyler Fitzgerald of the San Francisco Giants here. I mentioned him as like a guy that was like a real deep sleeper coming into the season. I liked what he did last year. I'm not too thrilled with his spring, obviously, right now. The spring is kind of okay. He's batting about 268. He had about 41 at bats, 5 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, a bomb, 3 ribs, 3 walks, 20 strikeouts, which is kind of atrocious, and no stolen bases. But what intrigues me is, sometimes you can't take spring too seriously. Sometimes guys are just naturally slow starters. They got to work things through, and then he kind of explodes. The sample size we saw in his age 26 season was really nice last year. 314 at bats, 53 runs, 19 doubles, 2 triples, 15 bombs, 34 ribs, 17 stolen bases, and batted 280. Now, he's always just been a, insane, insane strikeout guy, like struck out 108 times, walked about 22 times. Obviously in points leagues, do not touch him with a 10-foot ball. But in, head-to-head categories, roto, like that is where I'm kind of going to look at it because, a guy that strikes out 30% of the time isn't going to hurt your bottom line if he's able to at least post a 260 batting average, which is still possible. Guy can put the ball to the bat. It's just a matter of, okay, is it going to fly out or is it going to strike out? I'm totally okay with this. Look, 30 home run pace last year. If he would have played a full season, stolen bases is pretty nice with it as well. Look, he's a watch. I'm not going out and adding him, but shortstop is a position that he has. Shortstop is pretty ugly. If you ended up getting a flop or anything of sort at the position, he might be a name you're falling back on in 2 weeks. We don't know. So just keep an eye out. If he starts going off, he's somebody that we already seen some success. We need to just see it a little bit this year. And he's definitely an ad. So we probably will end up on a waiver wire episode by probably the second waiver wire episode, I have a feeling, because I think he's just going to get going and get rolling. But it just might take a little time.
Matt, I'm actually with you on Fitzgerald. Super interesting name here. And the cool thing is, Matt, you talked about his shortstop eligibility. On Yahoo, he has shortstop, outfield. And guess what? He's going to be playing second base for the Giants. So he's going to have second base. He's going to have second base pretty quickly, too. So you're talking about 3, position eligibilities. Swiss Army knife is what Tyler Fitzgerald is turning into here. And if he can regain even a little bit of the speed, a little bit of the power, a little bit of the batting average, he could be a useful guy. Roster Resource has him, hitting 9th, but there's a way where he gets that leadoff spot because you know what? The 9 hole is almost the second leadoff hitter anyway. They have Lamont Wade Jr., who's 31 years old, scheduled to hit leadoff. Jung Ho Lee, who's often hurt, is hitting 3rd. I think there's a way where he moves up this lineup if he's hitting well. And he is actually only 31% owned on Yahoo at the moment. So super interesting guy going into the year. Let's move into somebody, once again, who's been one of my favorites. I feel like I've talked about him a lot, but just kind of want to throw him out here again. Just because, he has officially gotten the job. Ivan Herrera officially, getting that catching job over in St. Louis. I think he's going to play a lot. The thing is, he's got a really, good eye. He's going to walk a good amount, not strike out too much. He's got a good batting average. He's not going to give you too much power, and I'm not really sure where he's going to hit in this lineup. I don't think it's going to be a great spot, and I don't project it ever being a huge spot. But Ivan Herrera is somebody, if you wait on catcher or if, you're just in a 2-catcher league, he's a a middling, a low end number 1 catcher, high end number 2 catcher. And in the spring, like I said, he's doing a pretty good job so far. 16 games this spring, 33 at bats, 3 runs, 5 doubles, a triple, a homer, 8 RBIs. He has 9 walks to 9 strikeouts. Like I said, you love to see that. And a 333 batting average. That's basically the kind of guy he's going to be. Give you the doubles. He's good, really good for points leagues. I think in points leagues he moves up a little bit in my catcher rank. He's probably a solid lower end 1 catcher than a lower end 1 catcher there. But I really like what Ivan Herrera brings to the table. I hope these Cardinals are going to be better than they were last year. They really do have so much young promise there. If him and Jordan Walker and the rest of those young boys can get it together, I think Ivan Herrera is somebody that's going to be useful. And then last year, 72 games, he had 5 homers, 5 steals at 301. And let's get 25 walks, that's 53 strikeouts. You love that. I think he's going to be useful. I think somebody, I don't even know if I get Matt. I think if the ownership percentage 28% on Yahoo.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like him. We've talked about him. He's a guy we were kind of like, low key targeting in 12-man leagues at the end of the draft. We'll see what happens. I'm okay with it. Catchers are very fickle. You probably, if you didn't get a higher end one, you're probably not probably not going to finish the year off with the same catcher 9 out of 10 times. So Ivan Herrera is a name you want to keep on because, I mean, even if he's hot for a little bit, you definitely want to roll that name out there. Move on to Victor Scott. My guy is playing for the St. Louis Cardinals and is having a pretty good spring. I'm not too keen on the talent. Like, I'm not really a big fan other than he's just a giant stolen base machine. But spring is interesting. It's completely out of profile. 43 at bats, 11 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 4 bombs, 7 ribs, 5 stolen bases, batting 349. In the minors, like, his batting average was pretty decent, 303, 286, 278, 329. Like, I mean, you look at those and you're like, okay, cool. Some of that was college. But 94 stolen base season. That's kind of bonkers. That's kind of where you're at. And then 2024, before he got the call up, 30 stolen bases already, but then came up and did absolutely diddly. Batting average was diddly was horrendous going into that. I look at it and I go, what do we expect from him? Well, if he can bat me 250, use the speed wholeheartedly, I'm going to use him as a UT when I'm down in stolen bases on the week. Other than that, I'm really not going to care. But if you did miss out on stolen bases, you didn't pick up on like the Victor Robleses or who's another great late round steals guy. And anyway, guys like that, Victor Scott is your next best thing. Probably want to see if you can watch him. If he starts keeping this pace up, he might be like a good month heater and then a sell high candidate going in after 2 weeks because everybody might just like mush over the prospect, air quote pedigree that I really don't believe in myself. So it's interesting.
Matt, I actually do have a good comp for Victor Scott. Think of like Victor Scott as like basically like a Bryce Terang in the outfield. He's got really good speed, middling batting average upside. And depending on where he's going to hit in this lineup, the runs could be decent too. Matt talked about a little bit of prospect pedigree here with Scott, mainly the speed. Like he's shown off in the minors, stole 94 bags in 132 games in 2023. So I like what he brings to the table. Going to mainly be a speed specialist. 16% owned on Yahoo for Victor Scott II. Once again, if you need some steals, you can add him. Just keep your eyes on him. I think more of a watch list play at this point. Let's move on to our last guy, and unironically, it is another St. Louis Cardinal. It's Brendan Donovan. Brendan Donovan's a funny guy. I mean, he always gives you that promise going into the year, man. You always get really, I think it's been like the last 3 or 4 years I've been so excited about Brendan Donovan going into opening day, and he hasn't really lived up to the hype. Second, third outfield eligibility, you love it, 45% owned on Yahoo. He's going to start at second and hit third going into the year for, the Cardinals. You kind of love that spot for him going in. He's like a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. He can do a little bit of everything. He's got a little bit of speed, got a little bit of pop, in that spot in the lineup, it looks really good. And just as being a Swiss Army knife, I like Brendan Donovan, not a lot of upside here. He's not somebody I'm predicting to have like a breakout year or anything, but at the end of your drafts, if you're just looking for a Swiss Army knife that could fill in at the end of your bench and has a little bit of upside, not a lot, but a little tiny bit, Brendan Donovan could be your guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been a fan of him. I think I got raked over the coals last year for poo-pooing all over him. I'm not a fan. He is a really good, like, ride the hot hand kind of type deal, ride the wave. When he's hot, he's rolling, and then when he completely falls off, you drop him like a bag of bricks. Like he's the whole reason, I came out with this drop for he is pretty much the Brendan Donovan drop. Okay, here I'll give everybody a preview what it's gonna look like.
It's hot. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.
So like I'm good on Brendan Donovan, but when he's hot, I'll ride the wave. That's really it. Don't look at him for the long term. Just watch him closely for when he does start getting hot, and then add him, and then maybe trade him to a Brendan Donovan fan for anything under this. I mean, you've already won. But guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do everything you can to share this show. We love doing it. Season's here. Happy opening day this week. It's going to be a good season overall, and we're going to get you over that finish line and win that championship. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace out.
So.